Ooh. The stool is taller than I am. I have to crawl up on it. We're going to be in Exodus chapter 4. Exodus chapter 4. Some of you really into music, particularly classical music. When I was in high school, I was in the band my freshman year, and then was also in the choir, I think freshman, maybe junior and senior year. Really enjoyed making music with a lot of people, big groups. I think we had 100 in the band and maybe 50 or 60 in that choir. But we would always run across works that were called theme and variations. You familiar with that? What a composer would do is he would write a melody, and then he would take that melody and just tweak it a little bit here and there. And so the second time they played through it, you would know it was the same song, but it was slightly different. And then a third time through, and it would be slightly different yet again. And usually by the end, it would kind of combine some of those variations and then end back on the major theme. And they call that theme and variation. The Old Testament has some theme and variation to it. We've already seen several of the themes in the book of Genesis, and we're going to start seeing some variations on the theme. Just for example, theme number 1, saving the righteous while punishing the wicked. Think about the ark. Think about Lot and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? God knows how to save the righteous. He knows how to punish the wicked. Sometimes God takes special interest in a particular, and to our eyes maybe random, servant. You know, why did he choose Noah? Why did he choose Abraham? Why did he choose Jacob to be the father of the 12 tribes? All of these choosings that God did are kind of variations on that theme, that he would take special interest in one servant and then use them for the sake of the rest of them. And then mainly making sure that his power is in evidence. That's the overriding theme for all of it. And so you think about all the barren women that we ran across. And as soon as you see, and so was barren, she could have no children, what do we know about her? She's going to have an important child, right? God's holding her back. He's going to do something special a little bit later on. So now we've got a new variation on this theme of God's power and how he's going to exhibit his power. And that is that Pharaoh is not going to be defeated by Israel. Right? Israel never fights a battle against Pharaoh, at least not in this generation. They're never victorious in some big hand-to-hand combat warfare. God is going to defeat Pharaoh. So he's going to do somewhat the same kind of thing, a little variation on the theme of what he did with those barren women. We're going to see a horrible situation, something that seems like it's going to go on and never be fixed. And then just at the right minute, God's going to step in and fix it. And he's setting us up. And he's setting Pharaoh up. And he's setting Moses and Aaron up and the people of Israel up for that moment. So we have to kind of wade through some stuff on our way to God doing what God is going to do. So I want us to start by reading in chapter 4 and verse 27. We're going to read down through chapter 5 and verse 5. Exodus 4:27 down to 5:5. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." So he met Moses at the mountain of God and kissed him. Then Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had sent him to say, and also about all the signs he had commanded him to perform. Moses and Aaron brought together all the elders of the Israelites. Aaron told them everything the Lord had said to Moses. He also performed the signs before the people, and they believed. When they had heard that the Lord was concerned about them and had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshipped. Afterwards, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I don't know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." Then they said, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God, or he may strike us with plagues or with the sword." But the king of Egypt said, "Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Go back to your work." Then Pharaoh said, "Look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you are stopping them from doing their work." So the first little salvo that we have between Moses and Aaron and Pharaoh is a test of power. You know, who's really got the authority here? Who's really got the power here? Do you notice that when Moses and Aaron get together, Aaron is immediately the spokesperson? Right? When they go before the leadership of Israel, there's no mention of Moses making a speech. This is Aaron who is making the speeches. Moses is in charge. He is as God to Aaron. So God has given the message to Moses. Moses has given the message to Aaron, and Aaron is now sharing the message with the people. But he also performs the signs that God gave for them to perform. Right? So you've got the staff turning into a snake and turning back, and you've got the hand in the robe turning leprous, and then turning back white or turning clear again. So he does all of these signs. What was the third one? Pouring out the water, and it turns from water to blood. So all of the people are excited, not just because Moses and Aaron have shown some miraculous things, but because they got the impression that God really cares about them. They were despondent as a people at this point. They had kind of a really nice heyday back in Joseph's time, and for a couple of 100 years perhaps after that, until they got to be too numerous. And the more people there were, the more the Egyptians noticed them, the more worried they were about them beginning to rise up. But again, this isn't about Israel rising up and Israel going to war against Egypt. This is about God versus Pharaoh. Okay? Pharaoh gives probably the most indicative kind of answer of the ages when he says, "Who is this Lord of yours?" And that's capital Lord. Don't know if Moses used the word Yahweh. Said, you know, our God Yahweh told us that, you know, you're going to have to let the people go and have this festival. They come at it with two different levels, right? Just let them go, kind of a general demand, and then they come back with the second negotiation, just let them go for 3 days. Pharaoh's not having any of it. You're already slowing them down enough. What do I have to do with this Lord of yours, and why would I do anything that he says? So I looked at from the idea of what kind of power are we talking about? Who thinks they have the power? The more power that you have often results in less desire for deity. Right? Whoever you are, wherever you live in the world, whoever your deity might be, the more power you have, typically, the less interested you are in what your God has to say. You're doing right well, thank you, by yourself, so why would you need God to intervene and do anything on your behalf? Statistically, it's true. If you look at the income levels of people across the board who are more faithful in attending churches, who are more faithful in prayer life, typically it is people who are of a lower to middle economic, socioeconomic status. People who are in the upper echelons economically are less likely to be full-time regular worshipers. It's also interesting to see that males are much less likely to be faithful than are females. Females are far more likely to remain faithful, and particularly, and this may be because women outlive us, but in older ages, If you go to church and look around, you'll see more older ladies than older men. Even if the older men exist, they're less likely to show up without their date. Once the lady is gone, sometimes the men are less likely. But anyway, main point I want to make is that the more powerful you become physically, the more things you have physically, the less likely you are to pursue things spiritually. Pharaoh was the most important person that he knew. He didn't have the internet. He didn't have CNN. He knew his area of the world. He might have gotten reports about other kingdoms that were surrounding, but by and large, Pharaoh was the most important, most powerful person that he knew, and he thought that he was descended from the gods. So why do I need to listen to you talk about your God? I have my own deity. I have my own power. What do I need him for? When I was teaching at Northwestern, one of the things we talked about was, is it reasonable to believe in the existence of an other, of a deity, of a higher power, higher than humans? If evolution is true, who makes the decisions? Well, the most powerful humans do. And again, the more money you have, typically the more power you have, the more say you have. And so some of us get discouraged because people who are upper 1%, very wealthy people, tend to make decisions that we wouldn't always agree with. And so we have problems in coming to grips with the fact that we don't have the kind of power we wish we did, and would we have more power if we had more cash at the ready? But if evolution is true, the strongest, the most powerful, the richest humans make all the rules. But if there really is a God, then you have to take into account what that God thinks. Whatever you call him, wherever he might be, if there's a God at all, you've got to begin to wonder if he wants something. Well, Pharaoh's response is very typical to a lot of our 18 to 25-year-old folks who have been raised with evolution and who kind of see themselves or see humanity as the highest rung on the evolutionary ladder. Right? What do we need with a God? Right? It's about me. It's about us. It's about what we can do as human beings. So if people try to get you to obey someone other than yourselves, the next thing you do is question their motives. So Pharaoh says to Moses and Aaron, why are you stopping the people from doing their work? His answer is going to be a typical answer for someone who's never had to go into a field and make a brick. Right? What's his answer going to be? You already know in advance. What does Pharaoh accuse them of? They're all just lazy. They're all just lazy. That's their problem. They don't really need this God. We don't need this God. You need to get back to work. So he tells Moses and Aaron, you're stopping them from doing their work. They need to get back to work. Why do you think that your agenda is more important than mine? What was Pharaoh's agenda? I'm rich. I want to get richer. I'm powerful. I want to be more powerful. What you're doing is stopping people from making me richer and more powerful. So you need to get out of the way and let them do what I want them to do. All right, starting in chapter 5 and verse 6. That same day, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people. You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That's why they're crying out, let us go sacrifice to our God. Make the work harder for the people so that they keep working and pay no attention to their lies. So the propaganda machine goes into full blast. The problem here is not a religious one. The problem here is a work problem, a laziness problem. The people are just wanting some time off. this might be an interesting time to insert it. We'll talk about it more later. The Egyptians did not do time like we do time. Right? They had never read Genesis 1. They didn't know that there were 7 days in a week. They didn't know that you worked on 6 and rested on the 7th. The Egyptians had their time blocked into tens. Every month was 3 sets of 10. And as far as days off, there were none. You started on day 1, worked 10 days, started on day 1, worked 10 days, started on day 1, worked 10 days. So if you're an Israelite, every day when you wake up, you go into the field and your job is to make bricks and build stuff. If your ability to make bricks is made more difficult and your quota is left the same, what does that do to morale? Right? This is not a group of people that are excited about their lives. At one time, they were starting to get built up. They were kind of excited. Moses and Aaron come to them. Your God knows about you. Your God cares about you. Your God wants to do good things for you. And the immediate aftermath of that is that Pharaoh makes their lives miserable. So there's no time off in the future. There's no possibility of things getting easier. Instead, it gets harder and harder. Becky and I watch a show called Building Off the Grid. And some of those little houses are really kind of cute. And some of them are made with this clay and straw mixture that turns into a brick type deal. Some of them made bricks and some of them just smear it on the walls and it hardens and makes an adobe kind of dwelling. But these folks were experts at making bricks out of clay and straw. They were not experts at going out to find their own straw. So it says they had to spread out all over the country to try to find enough straw to make their bricks. Slide down to verse 15. The Israelite overseers went and appealed to Pharaoh. Why have you treated your servants this way? Your servants are given no straw, yet we're told make bricks. Your servants are being beaten, but the fault is with your own people. In other words, we didn't do anything. Right? We didn't leave. We didn't take a day off. We didn't go worship our God. All we said was, can we? And instead of giving us any leeway, you just made our lives more miserable. Pharaoh said, lazy. That's what you are. You're lazy. That's why you keep saying, let us go and sacrifice to the Lord. Now get to work. You will not be given any straw, yet you must produce your full quota of bricks. So they appeal to the Supreme Court. Right? What's the most powerful person they know? Who's the most powerful person he knows? If Pharaoh says it, then that's the end of the matter. There's no recourse. Nothing's going to get better. Life stinks if you are an Israelite slave. Everything is turning worse as we go, okay? Verse 19, the Israelite overseers realized they were in trouble when they were told you're not to reduce the number of bricks required of you each day. When they left Pharaoh, they found Moses and Aaron waiting to meet them. And they said, may the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials and have put a sword in their hand to kill us. Do any of your translations have, you have made us a stench in the nostrils of Pharaoh? Anybody? No? Some of the translations go with that. And that to me is a real precise, I don't know how precise it is linguistically, but it gets the point across, right? We were doing all right without your help. And now you've come in and you've made us a stench in the nostrils of Pharaoh. So here's the flow of the power so far. Right? God, who we know has all power, but has not yet proven it to this generation, sends Moses and Aaron to go and tell them that they need to take a 3-day festival. So they show signs to the people buy into it, they go talk to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, who only has partial power, but has already proven it. Right? They haven't seen God's power yet. It's huge. It's immense. It's way beyond anything Pharaoh can imagine, but God hasn't shown it to them yet. He's shown them a rod turned into a snake, leprosy, not leprosy, pour out the water, it becomes blood. They were exciting, but not as exciting when Pharaoh lowers the boom with the power they can see, the power they can feel. So they're out in the field being beaten because they can't make enough bricks. So Pharaoh seems to have power. The slaves have absolutely no power and no recourse. So the slaves who have no power complain to Moses and Aaron. Moses, whom the people thought had some power, has no other recourse than to do what? Complain to God. So everybody's trying to figure out where the power lies. So far, on paper, who's the most powerful person in the narrative? Pharaoh, right? Pharaoh looks big and bad, large and in charge. That's about to change. God needed Pharaoh to feel that way. God needed his servants. He needed the Israelites to see this. He needed Moses and Aaron to see this because it's a variation on that theme. God doesn't play his trump card first. He holds it. He waits. He shows you the misery. He lets you feel the problem. And then he steps in and sets things right. We can compare that again to the way God is handling the world right now. Theme and variation. You look around you, who's got the power? Seems like a lot of different people are vying for power all the time. You watch the news and this side says we've got the power and that side says we've got the power and this foreign government says no, we've got the power. And there's just that constant clash of who's got the power. Who's got the power, folks? God's got the power. He hadn't gone anywhere. God is still on his throne. He's still got all the power. And someday, maybe very soon, he's going to break into history and he's going to set things straight. And this time, if we understand Scripture correctly, and I think we do, will be the last time. And then for an eternity, nobody will have to guess. We'll be able to see who has the power because he'll be sitting on the throne and be surrounded by thousands upon thousands and 10,000 times 10,000 saints and angels singing his praise. So soon and very soon, may he come. If there's something we can do for you tonight to encourage you, we would love to help you any way we can as we stand and sing.